All right, Jasmine, can you still hear us?
Yes.
All right, we're ready.
Ready to go?
Yep.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Quinn.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, it is 3:12 on 12/17 and call this meeting of the Economic Opportunity Advisory Board to order. Welcome, everyone. We'll just go around and do quick introductions to say who's here. Chris Wilson, and I am a member of the board.
Forrest Rogers, member of the board.
Deborah McKee, GOEO.
Melody McCandless, Grand County Commission.
Non-board member Cora Phillips. Chamber of Commerce.
Brittany Melton, voting member.
Pamela Gibson, Castle Valley, but I'll be on the board next year.
Great, and yeah, welcome and thanks again.
Thank you.
Pamela is officially was accepted by the commission and recommended officially by the Castle Valley. So yeah, welcome, and we're really excited to have you on the board for this coming year.
Ashley Cornblood, member of the board.
Melissa Jeffers, staff.
Thanks, Mark. Jasmine? Introductions.
Jasmine Duncan, member of the board.
Thank you. And Randy, are you with us? So Randy Martin, member of the board, appears to be with us. We'll see at what point he can join in the conversation.
There he is.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Hi, this is Randy Martin, member of the board representing the Moab Area Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks so much for joining, Randy. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay. So any conflicts of interest, disclosures, ex parte communication, anyone needs to state? Great, seeing none. Any citizens to be heard? Seeing none. Presentations we can skip over, but we do have just kind of our regular updates. Melody, is there anything you wanted to share with us from commission perspective?
Not so much because I was on vacation the first meeting and we've had really two small meetings, not a lot on our agenda, but one thing that did come up with the budget is we are at negative. If we added all the things in there that we could have taken out, I'm at about a $2 million deficit. And so one of the things that was recommended was to use the $200 or $200,000 from the RCG grants for our economic development department this year. There's a lot of initiatives that we need to kick off that haven't been in place. And so, I mean, that's rough for me to tell this board because it's like, that's kind of what you're gonna do, but I think there's other things that we can do. So there's other things that we can do. And I know it's hard to hear, but I want to just be upfront on this. That was part of the adopted budget last night. Right? No, 2 nights ago, was it? Yes, last night.
Right? Yeah.
Last
Yeah, so
night.
that was-
So
it was
that was
adopted,
last
yeah.
night. It was adopted, and that was the part of it. So to use that $200,000 in that department for many things, and I think that those will still come before. I think they'll still get talked about in this
That's
forward.
the conversation
Yeah.
for today.
So,
Okay.
anyways, yeah, I did get it adopted, and so that's all. That's really all I have for. Oh, and I mean, as many of you know, but some of you don't know that there will be a business summit. Economic summit that the chamber is putting on January 15th. And so everybody should definitely sign up and come, and it'll be a great time, learn a lot of new things.
Great. Thanks, man.
That's all I have today.
Yeah, perfect. And then Melissa, anything, obviously we'll jump into the RCG discussion in a moment, but anything in terms of updates from the Economic Development Office?
Yes, on RCG. I have exhaustively gone through and drafted the process for this year with the payments going out and have created a process so that anyone who steps into this role in the future, hopefully, will be able to have access to all the historical information. They'll know all the previous grants. I added to the packets, smart chips and links to all of their first application and pre-application and all of those things. And right now, those are sitting with county attorney stocks for review. And as soon as we have those drafts, we'll send those out for folks to sign. And then I will make sure that those go into the templates as well. So that forever after, even if and when this board decides that they want to modify the process, at least people have access to that historical data and they can use the same file structure so that hopefully we're not reinventing the wheel every year. So I haven't sent, my objective is to send a draft out to all of the people who are waiting. I want to send them updates. The problem is I don't want to send an update to email to them, letting them know when they'll get their contracts. Just that their contracts are coming, because I don't know how long that's going to take for legal review. But that is in process. And then the commission did ratify and sign the RCOG extension for the Mackle project, which was great. And then I received an email from Rob Walker saying that they are doing swimmingly and plan to publish their end of year reports in January. And then as soon as we get those, I can send those out to the board as well, but that's kind of status of things.
Well, and I see they've broken ground on the,
Have they?
yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. Great, so we don't, I don't know, maybe my hearing, you don't want to speculate as to like when dollars will go out, but we're,
The
you know, within the
second I
next-
speculate is as soon as I am gonna be wrong. So what I wanna do is I wanna make sure that I send a communication to people, just letting them know what the status is, because I don't want them to think that we've forgotten them. We have had a couple of people reach out and ask and
Yeah.
just say, hey, what's the status of this? I don't wanna give them a timeline. I'm hoping that it will be really soon. For sure, I hope it will be before the end of the year, and I'll just. What I'll do with the board, so that you guys know, is that the second that those contracts have gone out for signature, I'll make sure I send something out to the board at the same time and let everyone know that they have gone out, and I'll let you know as they come back in.
Cool,
But that's.
that's great, that sounds like we're really close to the finish line of, or at least
I
not
think
call that
so.
the finish line, but like the
I
new
think-
starting line of getting those projects
You
started.
guys
which is
get
what we really need.
questions as well. I mean, I get phone calls. all
We've
the
gotten
time,
a few,
okay,
yeah.
so I am always like,
Yeah,
it's coming, and. Oh, I just wanted to, everybody else was.
just a few, yeah.
It's
for sure.
here and we're ready to roll, and hopefully for anyone doing this at any time in the future, it will be a much easier process, because now everything is linked and connected together. So the application may change, and that's okay. We'll just put it in the application folder and
Yeah.
it will be the same process.
It's great, thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
It's awesome,
So we're there,
very cool,
almost.
yes. Yeah. Let me see,
Yeah,
did
if you
we-
wanna. You have your keys, right?
oh, we're hearing you, Randy, did you want to jump in?
Nope, sorry about that.
No problem. Did we get minutes posted for the last meeting? I didn't see those, but
They're
Okay.
not there.
Okay.
So Aaron and I have gone back and forth. He has been working a lot lately. He was gonna
He's
have
just
them,
working, yeah.
yeah. So my guess is that maybe if we could just have him do both sets of minutes for the next meeting, then you can approve both sets, but I think
Yeah.
he's just been busy.
perfect, okay, and also just noticing that Aaron's not here, I'll try my best to take notes during the meeting, but if anybody else can kind of help out with that and just shoot an email afterwards, that would be great, and then we can make sure that that becomes the minutes for this meeting. Okay, so we'll just postpone any approval of meeting minutes till the next meeting. And move into our discussion items. So yeah, the first one and the big one is the direction of the RCG for 2026. Our subcommittee met a week or so ago and had a really good conversation about it. And it was very much along the lines of what Melody just mentioned to us. I mean, I think that realizing that we, we went through this big sort of process to make sure that economic development was staffed within the county, which is huge and amazing, and we're so glad that Melissa is here. But she can do a lot more if she has a budget, and right now she doesn't have one. So the general sort of proposal for discussion today is using the RCG funding, or at least the vast majority of it. I mean, we can have a conversation about things like that. For the department, basically. And so we want to, Melissa is going to talk to us a little bit about what that kind of looks like, and we can talk about sort of what that budget might sort of entail. And then if we decide to move in that direction as a board, then that sort of reworks what the timeline looks like for us, right? If we're not looking to open up a sub-grant program come January, then we can use that time over the next couple of months to get things in a good position where we all feel comfortable supporting as a board. A budget or whatever exactly the proposal is looking like from the department. But let me just pass it over to you, Melissa, to talk a little bit about what your thoughts are, what that might look like.
Yeah, so just in terms of budget. What we've talked about and what we've explored are kind of more along big buckets. Because a lot's gonna happen between now and when the grant gets put before the commission for their feedback and then the application process. So not knowing between now and then exactly the status of which projects is a little bit difficult to predict. So talking about things like, there are some catch-up things that we need to do that are really important. So for example, our community profile with EDC Utah hasn't been updated in, I think they told me 7 years. And those are the types of things that we are going to leverage in order to get funding or to attract sort of some of the projects that we may want to attract in. Those things are going to be really important. We are behind on a lot of our dues and memberships in a lot of these organizations that are really key for us. There are some conferences and training items that have been recommended by GOEO. So we want to make sure that we're participating in those. And then some relationship building activities. But most of where I see the budget going is along the lines of data and information. And that data and information is really important for us because no matter what direction that we move in or what strategy we decide that we want to support, everything that we're going to do to be able to attract the funding for that is going to require data. And ours is just really out of date. So I've been working really closely with EDC Utah and they've come up with kind of a custom pricing package for what we feel like we need and what they feel like they can best help us with. And so we're working through that. But kind of the status of whatever project that we're in as we get a little bit closer in spring, those are the things that we'll want to double down and put in a concrete budget. And then I do know that, and I don't know what portion, because I should have paid a lot more attention, but a portion of that grant then will also go to compensation. So how much or how little, stay tuned, I'm not sure, but I'll make sure that I track that down as we get closer to talking about specific budgets.
What is that compensation for staff?
That 50, Mark, was that 50,000 for her?
Yes.
I feel like it was 50
Was it?
for compensation and then 150 for the other
Okay,
recommended items. Is what it was listed on the budget.
Oh, so I'm sorry, I just didn't realize this, but there are amounts for RCG in the budget.
Always, yeah, always in our budget is the rural communities grant is in our budget, so that budget is being used, shows the incoming money from RCG. And the outgoing shows 50,000 to the economic development. And then another $150,000 for miscellaneous economic development. I can't remember, I didn't pull up the budget, but that's how it's split up, that's how.
Is that adding to what you're compensated now, but it's for?
it's for what I'm compensated now. So part of it will cover a portion of that compensation. And then part of it will be our budget to be able to renew the memberships and make the investments that we need to be able to make to have an economic development budget. And really what it's all about this year that I keep kind of doubling down on is just organizational capacity. So we need to be able to build out, and it's interesting because, and Forrest, I know that you've been through all of the different evolutions. We had a staffed economic development department with a really hefty economic diversification budget. So full staff, but they were combined with travel and tourism and economic development. And then they split those two things, but economic development still had that economic development budget. And then when that economic development budget went away, we removed the director out of that area. And so essentially you lost staff and then also any budget for that staff to be able to do anything. So to be able to rebuild that department and to be able to catch up, the idea was that a portion of the RCG grant now this year will go to compensating staff And then the rest of that budget would go to being able to fund that internal capacity building. So what reports that we need, what memberships that we need, what training that we need. That would be used to be able to build our capacity in-house.
And then moving forward, is that earmarked 50,000 every year?
No, that's just one time.
Okay.
That's just one time. I mean, if revenues go up in the county, we have.
And then we have a real
Yeah.
department that, I mean, that's the goal, right? Is to get the money to have a real department to then really move.
Yeah.
space.
I mean, and so
Okay.
if we built
Just
this
trying to make
department
sure I
enough that we
understood.
wanted to hire another staff member, then maybe we
That's-
would choose to use a little bit of that money to staff that just to boost the department, but it's not ongoing and forever.
And I don't
No,
know if
that's great.
legislatively,
We could do it on later.
yeah, if that's gonna be accepted in the future.
Yeah,
Not raining on your parade yet, but I think in the future, discussion of using that funds for compensation is definitely been brought up. It's definitely allowed right now, but I think,
in the future,
Well,
it change.
it could, I mean, it could change
Yeah.
every single year. It could change every single
Yeah.
year, so.
Yeah, you can't rely on it for,
The
it's like
funding is
one-time funding.
ongoing though.
It's one-time funding for a position, but not for.
Well, and I feel like, again, that's what organizational capacity building is for, is if we take that breath and we pause and we invest in our own capacity. Then the idea is to bring in additional revenues to be able to fund that department moving forward. So the idea is to take that breath and take that investment and then put the plans together so that we can expand. Because, it would be great to have the budget to hire additional headcount.
I do think that like brings up an important question in terms of the future of the department. I mean, because I think it makes a lot of sense to, I completely agree with the notion of investing in capacity of the department. But I guess like without a commitment from the county to have a department going forward, I mean, that's what I'm trying to ask is there a commitment from the county? You know what I mean? Like if we're just hearing like compensation might not be possible in the future, like. If push comes to shove, like, I mean, is the county gonna step up and make sure that we still have this department? Because otherwise, why invest in capacity?
I
You know
would
what I
hope
mean?
so.
I'd rather invest in something else external with the money. Unless we have a commitment from the county to keep this moving forward.
So commissions change every
Sure.
2
I
years.
understand, yeah.
And so, I mean, I would think so. I think that economic development is a super important thing. And that's why, but there was no money for economic development. It was part of TRT. And when the state said you can't be paying economic development with TRT money, there was no money for Ben Alter's position at that
Right.
time. So things got changed around. Ben's like, I don't really want to just do this, so I'm out of here, and so we waited for a while. Everybody did a good job and the commission decided we need this position. So, and this year we have a huge shortfall in our budget, and we have a huge revenue, 4%, a lot when you look at the dollars, and so we have a freeze on spending. But not a freeze on, but if this can help us not lay off other pieces of our county as well. I mean, but I think that Melissa had talked to you guys about this plan prior to anything that, I think that we knew that we had such a shortfall in our budget. And if it continues to decline, revenues continue to decline, positions will go away. And I don't know what positions. I would think that economic development would be a super important position to keep when you're looking at declining revenues, because ultimately, so I guess
Yeah.
we turn on the investment. What is, they're doing? If that department's bringing in money and they're doing their work, and then it'd be really hard to cut them. So
Yeah.
that's.
But also like it's hard to cut
See the
somebody
value.
else when this is grant funded. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we're sitting outside the budget in a
Yeah,
certain
this year,
sense, right?
this year we're sitting there,
Yeah.
just like we have other grant.
Which just means like if it's
that-
tight again next year, then I don't know, isn't it in some ways like? I'm not, there's nothing to do necessarily. I'm just trying to bring
To
up a
look to the
concern
future,
more than
yeah,
anything, I
yeah,
guess is all I'm
yeah.
trying to say is that. I'd be concerned that if this is a grant funded position and the grant no longer allows the position to be funded, then the county's put in a position where they say, well, to fund Melissa next year, 2027, we need to cut somebody else in some other department, you know what I mean? Because that's the only way budgets work, like you've got to cut something to find it. So it's a little scary to me to hear even the staffing, not just the like external budget, but the staffing for what I believe to be is a really key position in the county to be entirely dependent on a grant that we're not sure if it will allow it in the future to be funded that way in particular. But
I think you're in the clear for a while.
it's an
But you
emergency.
scared.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
I think
yeah.
you're doing just fine. You're always gonna have that $200,000 to spend, so I feel like it would be important for the county to have somebody to manage that $200,000, you would think, you know?
Yeah,
I think there's another advantage to the approach that is being taken here. Building capacity is obviously long overdue. The other thing is building clarity about what economic development is. And by creating a distinctly separate department from tourism and given the resources that Melissa has identified, I think it'll be easier for the commission and the public to see what economic development investments are like, what they are and what they can produce. Because the last 2.5 years have been a maelstrom, really, of this, that, and the other thing, you know. People with different ideas about what economic diversification is, what development is, how is it separate or connected to tourism. So I think with Melissa's leadership and the support that Melody obviously has given to not only her work, but to the idea of economic development for the county. I think this is exactly the right step. It's the best way to make these investments. And I think they will, I know that they will demonstrate that there is a path forward to build this, our business ecosystem and generate revenue.
Yeah.
first. Yeah, this is an open discussion on the concept, because I mean, where this would head, like, is to us making a recommendation to the commission on what, you know, yeah, on what to, certainly on what to spend the RCG on. How much detail we go into it as a board is up to us.
I'm gonna do kind of what you did in the chamber meeting. And I'm just gonna say, what is the overarching theme? Like, what is the economic development strategy for Grand County? And maybe it's been floated and I like it, because the thing is, when you do have different staffing shortages over a period of time, and there is uncertainty about that, if you have a good strategy, at least you know, okay, this is what we're trying to do. And we had this great person working for a while, and then we don't have that person, but the strategy, it doesn't have to be redone every time. So I don't know, do we have that? Are there plans to get that? Do you have it in your heart, but not enunciated yet? Or is there a process? And I know, like, we have the general plan, we aren't updating that. We have, you know, and the word planning also is, verboten, no, I don't know. So, it just feels like that would help, and that's something this committee could be helping with too, more, I mean, I don't know.
So I think there's the 30,000 foot view. And then there's the zoom in on the ground approach. And when I think about where we are now and how those two things are working together, zooming out to the 30,000 foot view, we've got a lot of really hard conversations ahead, because I don't think that our community has really honest conversations about what really happens here. So one of the really honest conversations about what happens here is I still see that we are conflicted about whether or not we want to attract visitation or not visitation, or how much tourism or how much not tourism. And I have been using the phrase gateway economy now, because we are no longer a gateway community, we are a gateway economy, period. So when 70% of your direct jobs are directly related to tourism, there is very little left that isn't at least significantly impacted by that. So for example, if you are a billing clerk, an orderly, a doctor, a nurse, someone who cleans at the hospital, you work for the library, you have a partner who works for EMS, no matter which piece of that part of the economy that you're touching, you are directly compensated by the visitation economy, which is why I keep saying visitation economy rather than tourism economy. Because as we zoom in, then what does that mean for us in terms of building industry clusters? So because we're so compressed with our visitation economy, there are things like affordable housing or available workforce, or the things that would allow us to attract in another industry, for example. So if we do the traditional things like the Ed TIF and the Red TIF programs, and we say, you know, these are the RFIs that we're going to respond to, it's really difficult for a company to make a decision to come here when the first thing that we say to you is, wow, we don't really have a lot of workforce and we don't really have a lot of housing. So being able to look at some of those industry clusters that make a lot of sense for our visitation economy is one of the first areas of focus that I think that we really need to double down on and where we're really headed. So there are some no-brainers. We need investment in our airport in terms of connectivity. We've got to have easier, both intermodal, but then also passenger transportation. That's it. It doesn't matter if we're saying we're interested in building out, maybe we're interested in building out a health and wellness destination economy to be able to augment that. Because maybe this is a really nice place for you to recover from orthopedic surgery and to look outside the window and to go for really nice walks. But if you can only fly in during certain portions of the year and we're cutting off your air travel to Phoenix for the entire winter, makes it really difficult. If we say, this is a really great place for us to age, this is a beautiful place for us to recreate and to be, it may also be a place for you to retire. If you can't connect easily with your family, friends, grandchildren, whatever, that's difficult as well. So I think, you know, Forrest and I have been on this for just a minute. We talked about asset-based economic development. I'm not even in asset-based economic development anymore for Grand County because our assets are not independent from external forces that are happening. If you have softness in international travel, we have softness in certain sectors of the economy, those are going to press down on us no matter what our assets are. So looking at it holistically to say how we're approaching affordable housing, what does our down payment assistance program look like? How are we helping families have affordability here so that we can cultivate really symbiotic economic development and diversification? That has to be our focus. So on the ground now, taking that down to the ground level, what does that look like? We can't go and talk to anyone about health and wellness destination travel or building up that industry segment because we have such an outdated community profile that we don't know what to tell investors. I can't tell you much about our economy. We don't have the sales tax leakage reports that we need. We don't have these things to be able to take to these investors or to these groups to be able to build those things. So when I talk about internal capacity building, those are exactly the types of investments that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So when you say, what is the overall strategy? The overall strategy is first and foremost, we need to start having those really difficult conversations, which is where the chamber comes in. And these different community events come in to be able to say, this is our economy. Here's where we're going with this economy. We're a little bit limited. We're surrounded by public land. So what we can do with affordable housing is really important because we have very little spaces to be able to do it with. Getting those key pieces in place are critical for us.
So here's the thing. Communities across the West are using their public land to drive their economies. And we keep trying to push away from our public land, and we don't, like, that's the difficult conversation I think you're referring to. If we as a community decided to make the most of the recreation economy and stop trying to be anywhere USA and stop trying to attract light manufacturing or whatever the sectors are that the governor's office has identified, those are great for places that don't have this landscape. I mean, we have the opportunity to make so much more money and provide more jobs and do a better job if we actually embraced our strengths and leaned into them instead of so many people pushing back. And, you know, it's that is our biggest problem. If we can't really acknowledge what kind of community we are and agree and go forward, it's gonna be harder. But, because trying to make us anywhere USA and trying to make it comfortable for light manufacturing to happen in this sandstone bowl that we live in is gonna be real difficult, when meanwhile, Richfield and Natarita and Grand Junction and all of these nearby communities are embracing their recreation assets and making the most of them. And so, I don't know, I think there is, I think that is one of our biggest challenges, but if there's no, like. We kind of, we've had a big swing on the commission and somewhere in the middle is this, like, let's make the most of that. And a lot of the GoEO programs are not gonna be really, are not gonna work for us. And it's gonna be banging our heads against the wall to try to fit into them. Whereas we have incredible opportunities for growth in jobs, in payment, in profitability of the companies that are here. But we have to, like, believe in it. And if we instead are constantly looking for a different deal, it's just, that's the part that I find hard, because we're missing this big opportunity.
I think, just because you said go now, I think that there's room for both, right? Richfield is also investing in energy and geothermal and other projects
But they have
alongside.
workforce and they have.
Well, there are
Right.
critical minerals in Grant County, are there not? Right, so I'm just saying,
There are
so some of those
The
communities
conference-
are.
I've been learning a whole lot about
Yeah,
this, working on
I bet.
recruiting speakers, and I mean, just, I think anyone would tell you, it's like this much potential compared to tourism, which is this much. I mean, so, but why, like,
What are
Awesome.
you seeing is missing? So, because I think,
And I'm just offering other points of view.
Right.
I'm not
No,
advocating
those-
for
those-
any
that's-
industry, I promise.
yeah,
I don't think anyone disagrees, and I think that's absolutely the direction that we're moving in, but I guess specifically, what are the actions that you would wanna take that you feel like we're not? Because that's exactly the direction that we're going in.
Cause
Well,
I do think like one strategy in the face of community disagreement or just like debates that are gonna be ongoing maybe, right? Cause we have a debate in our community about the visitor economy, tourism, how that drives things, the challenges related to it. And I think like big strategy discussion is important and we're like, I do think we need that as a community. But I also think that there is this like other approach, which is that you create programs like you're like where the rubber meets the road that everybody can live with, right? That don't necessarily just like flare in the face of these big community-wide debates. And so you say like, what is it that we can all agree on and what can we accomplish in that? And that's where it's like, maybe what we need, to be able to like see the vision of these kind of investments isn't that like that grand strategy narrative so much as also just like a plan, like, this is more like where the rubber meets the road, like what are the things that we're gonna do with it? Because then we can understand like how that fits into our own visions of what works for this
So we
community.
talk about those, and then it feels like it doesn't really work for everyone. So for example, I keep talking about the airport. We are doubling down, and we do have more runway. We'll have 4 runways. We need to put together the investment package and the study to be able to renegotiate the EAS agreements.
Yeah.
That's a really concrete thing. We're investing in Mud Springs and working really closely with San Juan County. We're working with NICA. We're hoping to have 2 races here this year in 2026. We've got 3 dates. 2 of them, they're hoping to have back-to-back here. I don't know how much you've looked at the economic impact that they brought to Richfield or that they brought to Vernal, but it is significant. You're looking at almost 8,000 people. So these things are already in place and they're already in motion.
But that's all I'm saying is that, so
What
then for us
more-
to see what the $150,000 would be spent on, if it's in those directions, I think there can be a lot of support for those types of directions. It's just a matter of like, us over the next couple of months, get into a position where it's clear what that looks like for a department, so that we can understand how that fits into this broader framework
Sure.
of what's trying to be what the department is trying to accomplish in our community.
And right now, we're working on, 5, 6 concrete things. But by the time that this money comes, we're now gonna be sitting in October. So as we get closer, we'll know which one of these things are far enough along.
But are you saying closer, are you pushing back against the idea of having that articulated before this group makes a recommendation to the commission?
Mm.
Okay, you're just saying that that would be part of that
Mhm.
process as we move towards
Totally.
this group.
You're just asking for, I'm trying to give high level strategy, and I'm also trying to give really concrete examples.
You're here.
So that, it's not.
Yeah.
Happy to provide, whichever one of the two. But every day it's working between the two, like EDC Utah, for example, I'll give you a perfect example with them. In talking about negotiating our rates and what our unique needs are. What we've talked about is working together to co-create a package that's a gateway economy package. Because our needs are so unique, and the laundry list of things that I've shared with them that we need help with and support with and a package around, they could be able to monetize these things. If we are the third most national park state in the nation, then that means that we have the third most likely gateway communities. How do you monetize what you're offering to us in packages that don't work in places like Ogden or in Salt Lake, right? If we are unique and we're this rare bird, give me the package of all of my laundry list of desires. And they've put that together, and they're really excited to dedicate economist staff and business intelligence staff to be able to help us figure out some things like, are we going in the hole with EMS with mitigation dollars from TRT? We very well may be. We don't really know that until we get all the data back and we can compare that with other similarly sized counties. And then we've got this new recreation grant that's opening up with the state of Utah that is kind of supposed to be in lieu of mitigation dollars. The more data that we're able to share to them, the more piece of that pie will be ours. We're the pilot community. Like you said today, we are the closest to, I guess, a pure gateway economy to be able to say, if you can help us with our needs and we can have a plan, then this is kind of your pilot. Great, EDC Utah. If you guys give us a break on some of these services, we'll share all that data back with you and allow you to productize that and now sell that to other gateway communities or be able to share some of that information with them. Maybe it is that we get that information with other gateway communities. We get to go to the federal government and say to them, really nice that you want us to collaborate now with the national parks, but we want to go back to some of that previous legislation that said, you're going to have to give us some dollars too. We're going to have maybe some of this offset dollars from the federal government, but I can't do that without this data. So I want to make sure that everybody understands it's not just the 30,000 foot view. There are the things that we need to be doing on the ground level too. And hopefully, we'll be able to put together that concrete budget that gives the line items of what specifically all of those things are. We just don't know what they're going to be until we get a little bit closer. But we are getting all that pricing from the different groups now.
Yeah.
Zion's Public Finance is really working with us to give us some specific, really detailed reports on sales tax leakage reports. And those are going to be really, really helpful.
Well, it's great that, I think it's great that we're at least having these conversations now. That's a huge plus, so. And having you in the room is great things.
I think there's kind of two parts to this. One is, I don't know, I'm actually sort of like, I'm struggling, I'm not sure that we need what we need from this group at this point.
Yeah.
If the commission's already created the budget for the RCG, then I don't know.
They
Yeah,
haven't
what
created
are
the
we
budget,
supposed to
they
do?
just
We're not
allocated
doing
it to go to that department. It's not like it's not created, it allocated it to go to that department for funding.
Yeah, the 50 and 150, right? That
Yeah.
part's approved by the commission.
Yeah.
So all we need to do is like say what the 150 might look like. Is that what the commission needs from us? What, I guess, like, honestly, at this point, what does the commission need from us? Over the next 6 months?
I think that what we still need to work on is what does it look like when we move out of this year? You know, gives you a lot of time to work on.
Sure.
Next year's, what does it look like? So. What do mini grants look like? What is the direction of, I mean, I think a lot of the reporting and stuff that Melissa's talking about is gonna help us make those decisions.
Yeah.
Because right now we're just 8 people sitting in a room talking about what we think instead of like having actual data. And I think data is really important. So having that data that Melissa will bring to us will help us to direct some of that as we go along. So I think it'll be ever, I mean, it will continue to be ever evolving. It's even when you get a manual written, it's gonna change because things are gonna be like, ah, that wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And things are different. So I think, and I also, you know, Melissa's brought this up before and I agree with her that we need to look at past proposals and past things and learn from those as we build a structure for it.
Is there a way that we could measure the impact that we've had in the past with all of the stuff that's been awarded? How do we, like, is there data that I don't know about or examples or anything like that?
There's all the reporting that's been done. I mean, that's kind of for the next part of the conversation today, which has to do with like monitoring and evaluation, which we can just jump into if that's where the conversation is right now. We can come back, we can kind of meld into it. No, it's not, I mean,
I
they're
just,
obviously, you're just following the conversation. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, every year, there are a series of questions that are asked that the department and our board, everybody, and the awardees help answer, that then gets submitted to the system. Those things include stuff like, I mean, just the basics, how the money was spent, how it was distributed, how it was spent, how, and then an evaluation of the effectiveness of the awarded grant. So every year, this office or whatever previous iteration of it submits some evaluation of the effectiveness of each of the grants. So that exists in all the previous years of reporting. Whether we want something more elaborate, more consistent over time, you know what I mean? Like we might think it needs to be better than what it was, but that exists. We can go back and take a look at it if we want to. And then some of the specific questions that get asked are things like jobs created, infrastructure created, capital improvements in the county, and then about matching money. So, I mean, I was looking at that in the context of thinking through what we're asking of anyone who is receiving an award like this coming year or in the future. That, I mean, basically, that would be sort of the minimum, right? It would be to put in the contracts with them. Or as a policy from the department, whatever the right vehicle for it is, that they need to be providing that information at least on an annual basis, right? I mean, I think that is what's happened.
What is the reporting requirement for the sub grants?
Yeah, I think those contracts are being written right now.
Is it including reporting, like a 6-month report or an annual report or?
They're required to do an annual report. And the annual reports that I've seen in the past essentially are just the budget. I would have to look. I've never seen the annual reports because before I was functioning as a board member. And I don't think that the board members ever saw those.
Well, the board's,
So I
I
have
mean,
never
required
seen a
to take,
report.
statutorily required to take part in the reporting.
Yeah, and we voted on one this past year that approved the one that was submitted that had to do with mobile community childcare. So that was one
Yeah, I
example
think
that
I
we've all
was
done.
then, so I don't remember.
But there, I mean, yeah, how much of it we've sort of up to what detail the board's been involved is probably varied over the last few years, but. I mean, it seems to me that we should probably have in the contract. Like a May 1st date for annual reporting. Because May 15 is when the window opens for GOEO's reporting, it needs to be completed by July 15, so that we're eligible for. The grants the following year, right? Or at least that's the stuff I pulled
Yeah, I'm gonna
offline
check
today,
next
if those dates have changed, I don't know. That would be, I mean, even if the dates change, it's gonna be something along those lines, right? So I think that's gonna be, that would be, whether
That's
we
like
then
an
want.
essential part of our
It's like a
process.
basic part of what we have to do and what the department has to do, that the county has to do, just the basics, right? Like that's the bare minimum to be eligible for future funding. So we should, I mean, just in the same way, I think that we have like a recommendation and a guidebook going forward that like contracts for RCOGs finish maybe like a year and a half later so that we're eligible to reapply because we know that there's this challenge, like in the same way reporting, at least annual reporting should be done so that it's on a timeline that fits in with GOYO's requirements. Now, do we want to have a 6-month reporting and ask for another reporting window or something like that? I think, we should have some conversation about stuff like that, whatever the additional types of monitoring evaluation, but this is, to me, seems like a very obvious, like legislative or GOYO policy based minimum for floor that we should be requesting of, and that, I mean, that would apply to anyone, any entity, business, nonprofit, or even the office itself, right, that receives that GOYO funding, because they're gonna have to do that reporting every year.
And I think there's grant reporting and then there's impact reporting. And I was talking to Deborah a little bit today about some of the things that I want to do with impact reporting. So for example, when we look at and we take a systemic approach to be able to say, what are the things that are going to keep us from being able to be a thriving, prosperous economy? Affordability is going to be one of those things. We've invested a tremendous amount of investment in affordable housing, right? And I can look at that and I can say, how many units have been created, how much horizontal construction, how much vertical construction, all of those things. We want to also measure things like childcare, right? We need to do an affordability study to understand where we sit with that. How do we track to other communities, the investments that we've made in childcare? What have we done? Have we made it so that it's easier to get your child in and it's more available? Have we also made it more affordable? What other types of programs might we need to make sure that to make it more affordable? Maybe now we have programs that are based on AMI. So if we say you are, 60% of the average median income, then this is our program and our whatever for affordable childcare. But we don't know how we track for childcare. We don't know, have we made a dent? Did we reduce the cost of childcare for a family of 2 with 2 children under the age of 4? I don't know. Like, I have no idea. So there's what we build in place to be able to track the grants and grant reporting. But then we also need to be doing that consistent investment reporting as well to say, are we making it done? Like, are we moving the needle with affordable housing? Are we moving the needle with childcare? Are we moving the needle with how we deal with aging in our community? What are the things that we can put in place so that we can see what we're getting from those investments at scale? I think that's really important.
Well, and it sounds like to me, it's like more of a holistic approach rather than like a small little board going, this is $200,000. I think it's kind of like it expands us a little bit. And granted, we don't have a lot of power. Is that what you're kind of feeling? Like there's really no power? Is that, I mean,
Well, it's.
but I think it is kind of important for us to kind of see it from, now granted, I don't know that I'm super influential, but hopefully Mel's listening, or you know what I mean? Like, so I think even if it's not powerful, it might be more impactful for us to hear that too. I don't know, I'm trying to make it be a little bit more exciting to sit here, but I really do think, I know, but I feel what you're saying. I'm just trying to explain, like, I think that is important to see the department, and I agree with you, maybe listening and hearing and getting that report just from a perspective of, oh, well, have you thought of this? Or do you think that? Or, hey, Mel, right? Like there's some, I guess, validity to what we're doing. I think that that's an important one, and it will be really cool to see if we do have some of that data or the levers, and if we can kind of, that one didn't work, or let's try this one. You know what I mean? I think that's an important role. I don't know if it's specifically for this board, but I think it's important.
I think you guys have a ton of work to do, so like, I don't know why you think you just sit here, I know.
No, I don't think that. I'm just saying, like, if that's what kind of like our whole thing was, is we needed to figure out what we're gonna do with the 200 grand. Now we kind of know what we're doing with this, so then we need to figure out how we can impact that in an important way. Is that what?
Yeah, I'm a little unclear on, I'm agreeing with your questions. Yeah.
That doesn't usually happen, Ashley.
Yeah.
We need to chalk that one up as a win.
I totally agree, like, I'm still slightly confused about what you and what the county needs from us. And Yeah, like, is it, when you say we gotta figure out how to spend the 150, I'm assuming you already know, I mean,
Well, I think she's gonna come and give you recommendations, and then you're gonna be like, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, or whatever,
Okay.
but I don't think that this year is the only amount of money, I mean. There's
It might
next year's
shift
money
next
too.
year.
Yeah, I think that we need to review prior, which hasn't been a lot, because this dynamic of this board and the RCOG and RCG, how long have they been doing? 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, sure.
So, but there's still, but in those 4 or 5 years, there's been no processes put in place by this board ever in the last 4 or 5 years. So what we're looking for is processes putting in place, whether it's, in its 2 directions. One direction's a big spend, one direction's a sub grants, or there'd be 2. So what does that look like? What do you guys want it to be? What is the criteria for those? Do we want it to affect housing? Do we want it to affect seniors? Do we want it to affect I think those are all what the direction that this board needs to be doing. And so spend a lot of time wondering and discussing it, but I think it's pretty simple. I mean, I think
It's
that
not so,
he's
Melody,
talked
because
about,
like, for example, I mean, we were planning on doing like a sub-grant program until relatively recently, right? Like that was the direction we were like following for everything, and then we were gonna create processes around that, right? And then after some reflection, several people in this room, for various reasons, thought maybe a sub-grant program is not the best use of the money. So let's look at what we do need for this coming year. And this year, it turns out that it's a special case where we need to just fund a department and a staff position, right? Because we're really short on money. And 2 years ago, it was a special case because we had 2 things that we wanted to fund, and then the chamber went like leadership changes, and then we had to figure, it's just like, in some ways, I mean, I think what's happened just over the 1 year that you've been like our liaison gives us this, is like the same thing that's happened every year,
okay,
which is just, I'm just trying to say, it's like,
something new.
it is, exactly,
Yeah.
it's always something new, it's
Yeah.
always something new.
Yeah.
Legislative changes at the state level, change TRT dollars and how that works, like priorities in the county change, legislative makeup in the county, like, it is always something new. I still agree with you, like, some level of documentation of the lessons learned and best practices is a really important thing that we can do, right? But we should probably be like a little bit humble about how much we can just like set up a replicatable process that's just gonna run year after year. I mean, we started thinking we were gonna do that 6 months ago. And I kind of had like a vision in my head of what that might look like, and now we're doing something totally different again.
yeah. I mean, it's okay, like having, when you have a staff position in an organization that has a board to utilize for ideas, feedback, homework assignments, whatever, that's a good thing. It just seems like we're like, give away this money. Think about the general plan. Oh, no, don't think about the general plan. Oh, no, don't give away this money. Like, and so it's kind of like, all right, but so I get the challenges of starting the department from scratch, or so to speak, getting the department going again, and the need for all those relationships and the data and all of those pieces. I wish that we were being used to evolve a strategy, because I think it would be, when you do the work and put together a strategy and then people critique it, that's really valuable for everyone, So it's not like we would be,
I think that that's
But
what
I don't
is
think we're
being
being,
proposed though. So if I'm not mistaken, you guys correct me. If I'm hearing this right, we're taking this money, we're trying to make some good relationships so we can have some data to then go, and we'll be able to have a strategy, or at least begin a strategy, because we'll have the data. And Melissa's gonna work on, or what do you guys do it in the meeting? Staff's gonna tell us that, hey, this is what we have come up with. These are the things I'm working on. This is why I needed this report, that, whatever. And we're gonna be presented, and then we get to say, oh, that's good, or hey, what about this? And that's our whole entire, I guess, contribution. But then also, we still need to look backwards and say, did this impact? Did this not? Why? And then there's that manual of, this isn't working. These are the things that didn't work. this is what will work for in the future, we believe, because we have this data. So I think that there is a lot of stuff for us to do as far as, bringing something to the table. What did I miss there? So that would be 2027, basically, because the money, no, 26 is being paid out.
I think the way they're gonna do it, correct me if I'm wrong, Melody, is that the county's gonna keep paying Melissa to do her job with the expectation that later in the year, in October, the county will get the money to have been doing so all along. Is that right? Like the 50,000, like there's 150 and 50, right? So she's gonna keep doing her work, right? Like, she's gonna-
Government does, they spend money.
Exactly,
grants
before it
come
comes
and then
in.
They plop it all in this box.
Okay, well, so that's what.
So
I'm
from a
saying
staff, but
is-
I'm just saying from a staff perspective, like staffing perspective, it's 2026.
When do we think we'll get data, is what I'm.
In terms of what she spends the budget on, that's a different question, I think, like that might be on a different timeline.
I'm just kind of figuring out, I'm just trying to figure out like for this this coming year, like, let's say we're in January, February, March, right? We got not a whole lot to do unless we look backwards for a minute, because we still aren't gonna have, am I wrong? I don't know, correct me, I just don't.
No. And I'm curious to, Deborah, from you, like how do other boards?
Yeah, so I was gonna offer this.
Oh,
You know,
thank
Thanks
you.
for asking, yeah, I don't wanna butt in, it's not my place. But you know, let's take sub-grants, okay, for instance. The board in counties that I've been in, who are developing new sub-grant programs, this yours is freshy, right? The board is creating policies, procedures, essentially what I believe Melissa said that she has been working on and putting together. The board has created that. The board has created the scoring, you know, which you guys kind of did. You guys would come up with, what does reporting look like? Do you want a 6-month report? How are you gonna gather that information? What's that information's gonna be used for? So you're kind of managing like the whole sub-grant program. Is it, you know, 90-10%? Is it reimbursement percent? Or reimbursement funded, right? So like every single detail of the sub-grant program you guys could be developing if that's something that, you know, the staff wants, right? So and that's how other counties do it, essentially. It's like you guys could be working on refining all of that and creating a massive binder, you know, to move forward for other sub-grant years. If the funding's available, right? Maybe in 2 years, Grand County wants to put $100,000 towards sub-grant program and $100,000 towards the department, which is what a lot of counties do. They split it up like that. But then at least you'll have those policies and procedures already ready to go, and you won't have to waste your meetings talking about those, you know. Marketing the sub-grant programs is something that the boards have done, reviewing, holding the workshops to get people to apply, answering questions. Literally, I mean, it's an entire program that a staff of one part-time, right? Because she's not full-time economic development, right? I could never imagine could do, right? Like you guys. I think that would be an imperative job for you, which I think you do a lot of that, but there's a few other things that you could do.
Well, we have gotten this feedback about, I've gotten this from a few different people about how we need to, if we had money, we were giving it away. Or we were doing the grant process, that we need a little more focus so that people don't just see it as a big pile of money and they all apply for their. What is our goal? What do we think is the most
Mhm.
important? We're gonna move the needle the most for the economy at large, or what is our goal? We need more plumbers, or whatever we would identify as the community's critical goal for that year, that this money could maybe help. Totally, and that's something that we wanna work on. It just is a little hard to do that if we aren't gonna do the grants this year. So it's kind of like, wow, it doesn't make sense to work on this year's priority if it doesn't, if it seems unlikely that we're gonna be able to do any. So we do, yes, we've got a procedure that Melissa developed that we are starting to fine tune, and I think we are on our way to having a way. I think we know what to do once the grants come in. I think we need to do a little more on getting information out so that people know what type of thing we're looking for that year, if we've identified that, instead of just like any business can apply.
But can you see why that would be a building block for us? And I agree with you,
Sure.
Ashley,
Yeah.
is what we need to know is what do we need? And I think that's where the data and I guess my big thing is impact. And one thing that Chris, I think, kind of made me a believer on was, big money goes a far way. And that's where I like the idea of getting more money. And then maybe we have more to do because we have more money figuring out what to do with it. Does that make sense? So that's why I like the idea of, yeah, this year might be a little bit lighter, but maybe next year or the following years are gonna be much bigger because we have dollars that are fun to see.
Yeah, we're also gonna be able to do the RCOG again this year, you know, and so that's something that we wanna make sure is, are we gonna still go with the EMS plan? Because the Moab Area Community Lunch should be finished up with theirs by
March, right?
March,
Oh, so
hopefully.
we'll be in
That's
charge
when
of
we,
that one too.
yeah, so, and I thought I originally thought it was every 2 years that they do it, but it's just that we're able to apply for every 2 years. So because we missed last year because of them not
Yeah,
being
well,
finished. as
If you
soon as they're
finish it in a
finished-
year,
Well,
you
we-
could apply every
Yeah,
year.
we
Exactly.
apply every
Yeah.
year if we finish it in a year.
You
I
almost
mean,
have to finish it.
Yeah, you have to finish
So
it.
to do that,
Yeah.
when
Well,
money comes out of things like that.
We
Some
could
folks
submit
maybe
your
don't.
10% request, and
Yeah.
as long as that's submitted, I'll fight for you and we'll get you
Yeah.
to apply.
Yeah, so I mean, I think
So-
there's RCOG too, that we have.
For
that,
sure.
And if we wanna, you know, whether you wanna go with.
But
the
there's
EMS or not, but
opportunity to apply for that
Every year.
Yeah, and you're,
Well,
as
yeah.
long
What
as
are
you
you
don't have
doing?
an open contract.
Well,
And
yeah.
that's the problem this year is that you had an open contract.
The only way that the 2 year comes into play is they'll give you up to.
You
20%
have
of profit.
Tech, you can spend 2 years on a project.
Yeah, we had to get we had to get extensions because we hadn't finished it out 2
But
years.
so apply like every year, basically, you'd need to. I mean,
Have things like.
when does the money come out? Like the money, you almost need an organization that has the capacity to start spending the money before the
Right,
check.
so awards have been decided, so let's think about this last year, right? It closed, well, October 31st, am I right?
Yeah.
Help,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay, October 31st.
yeah.
And so awards were decided by the board last week.
Yeah.
The final approval is sitting on our executive director's desk, so hopefully he'll make those decisions in the next few weeks. Money goes out in January,
Exactly. So they
Ideally.
yeah, in an ideal world, you have 9 months then.
so then you would, yeah,
To spend the money.
right, yeah. But if you have a project already decided, it's ready to go.
Totally, if you have
you've already
just the right
spent your
project, if you have
match,
just
then
the
yeah.
right project, it might,
Yeah.
it's challenging to do it every year. I would
So
say.
RCOG go towards county
That too.
departments. So,
Ideally,
okay, so,
well,
so just as
County
a,
projects.
no, yeah, projects. thank
Not
you.
departments, but.
well,
county
okay,
It's
but,
project
okay,
based.
remember what meeting were we in? Was it this one? Anyway, that we
Okay.
talked about maybe talking to the different department heads of the county.
Yeah.
And then saying, pitch us your idea, what are you wanting? What do you think? And then if we had several of those lined up, where it was like, okay, OSTA wants this, airport wants the special service district for the care center wants this, whatever. We could probably line those out for a few
And
years.
the county has the money to start the project before we actually get the project, you know. so
Cause
if
you
we
have
did
to have a match as well,
Yeah.
so.
And if you're collaborating with the city.
Yes.
You can roll back and forth.
That's what I was
Exactly.
just
That's a
saying.
really good.
Valley is eligible
Yeah,
technically to apply, any incorporated city.
I feel like if I got
Great.
my dream.
Yeah.
And I were to share with my local county commissioner what I would love to see happen. I think it would be amazing to take one large strategic direction, like for example, seniors or aging population or whatever we settled on. And if we could collaborate with Moab City and start doing that with CDBG as well. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting the infrastructure piece and then the other programming piece or whatever. And you're applying more frequently because those longer lead time projects, like the CDBG with Maccolt. That's the reason why we're not applying for CDBG again, is it just takes longer to complete. But if we were timing it out with Moab, for example, and they were applying and then we were applying, I love the idea of being able to double down on impact.
And it's also competitive.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, but I'm here to help and I'm pretty good. I've had some wins under my belt.
You're our champion.
That's right. This year, the board, though, I mean, sorry to add in, but typically the outreach managers were able to attend the board meeting where the rural board decides the RCOGs, and this year we were cut out.
Oh,
So, not that you guys had an application in anyways, but I would have fought for you, but I couldn't anyways. So, which is really good, right? Because then, you know, the decision is solely up to the board to decide and is not being swayed in any way. But that's, you know, there's always updates, like you mentioned, so.
I'm also curious too about in lieu of subgrants. Being able to leverage the EAG program to support individual organizations, especially now that nonprofits are eligible as well. For projects that are moving in the direction that we're moving in strategically. Like whatever package that we're looking at. Being able to identify individual organizations to support them in their application for their EAG grant. That's a really nice sub-grant program that just doesn't go through the county. I'd love to be able to look at leveraging that strategically too. Like what are the organizations and the
What
businesses?
organizations would do that, like the chamber or what?
Okay, so I'm gonna give this as an example. I'm not suggesting that we do this, but it's just shorthand to be able to use a metaphor. If we said, hey, we really want to double down on this is a place to retire and you've got, you know, independent living for senior adults, whatever. Moab City may want to apply for a portion of that. We apply for a portion of that, but then maybe there are home healthcare businesses. Or maybe there are, you know, people who are offering education in home health. They would be applying on behalf of their own organization for an EAG grant. And we would be supporting that saying, yeah, we really need that. That's something that we really need in our community.
Like letters of support and
Yeah.
GoEO, we're using some of our other GoEO funding to support this initiative as well, which would look really great on the application. And to have that support from. Although EAG awards have not been decided yet, sorry, Cora. And so those will hopefully also go out in the next few weeks.
I swear, I thought Todd Thompson announced.
That was inaccurate information.
And I knew that they hadn't gone out, but I was like,
Yes, that was. Oops, misinformation, yeah. Huh?
optimistic.
I know, yeah, I was like, please can we not say the awards have gone out because 800 people across the state have applied.
So, okay, obviously next year, we're gonna have work to do on our COG, and that's something big. I think I'm like really along the lines of what you were just saying, Brittany, like, seems to me that beyond just having a process in place to pick a good project, which might be as simple as like going back to EMS, because we have one project that's like ready to go. Beyond that, and just for the like long term, it's smart to bring together to start, you know, putting out inquiries, feelers with airport, you know, care center, et cetera, like some various entities around the county that are strong like candidates because they're connected to the county, which is basically what we're looking for here. To explain to them what it is and then have them start making pitches that could be like this year, but it could be like, we're working on a project that's maybe like 3 years out before it's like ready to be shovel ready, but like, let's get that kind of like register of potential projects going. That would be, I think, something super useful. I guess on the building a guidebook for a binder for sub-grant programs, I feel like maybe we need a little, like, I hear mixed things about how happy everyone is with sub-grant programs, how much work they, you know, the administrative burden that they entail, whether that's really worth it in our community. And so like, if we have a sense from commission and department, commission administrator's office, from the government, that that's like something we want to do in the future again, then let's spend our time and like, let's really do it, you know? But if we're not, you know, like, it would be a bummer to spend all our meetings putting together a guidebook for a program that nobody has interest in
Is there anything
replicating.
left this cycle that you could still work on?
Well, we need, the contracts are going
Or
out,
like
Yeah.
right?
reporting?
So the contracts are going out, so we need a little bit of like determination of what the reporting requirements are.
I know you could have them come in, some counties have them come in and present on how it's going or do site visits. You guys could go on field trips and do site visits to the projects.
Yeah, I mean, we've done like
You
over
know,
the past
I wanna
4
go.
years, we've done all of that stuff at various times.
I'm just thinking.
I mean,
Yeah.
our biggest amount of money that we spent was the golf course, and yes, I'm ready to go out there.
Right.
They haven't gotten the money yet, so obviously they haven't started doing, and are you helping with them with their master plan RFP or anything like that, or?
Yes, and also, I have reached out to Michael Black so that I can have a follow-up meeting with him to follow up on their matching funds.
On the matching funds, okay, yeah, because I mean, that was the biggest amount of money that we put out there, but it's gonna take that master plan, and then, you know what, they're gonna come back with probably another project that hopefully the city and the county can collaborate on, and we can do some stuff at the, build a better clubhouse, or who knows what.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what the answers are all gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean, everything changes every year, but I think that there is cool things that's still gonna happen from this forward, and that it's not, nothing's gonna happen. It's unfortunate that we have such a deficit in our budget. But we're lucky that we have the grant to help it to keep going, so.
Absolutely.
And to help fund that department. And I don't want that to be long-term either. I mean, I think it's good to put it back into the community wherever we can.
Yeah.
But this is putting it back into the community,
So if you see the new revenues come through because of the work that is being put in, then you're gonna make that a line item budget thing that.
Oh, we could definitely
This
amend
makes
we
sense.
could definitely amend our budget and change that,
Okay.
but I mean,
It's probably not gonna be in the full year though, or I just wanna make sure that.
Yeah,
I
I
agree
agree
with
with our
Chris
hopes
in
on
a lot
that
of
for
ways,
this
like I wanna
year.
make
but-
sure that we're seeing this through.
Yeah.
Cause this is quite a big shift.
Do we have anything we meant to vote on that?
We,
I just got something.
I got stuff to do.
okay, yeah, Melissa, in terms of reporting and stuff like that going forward for this year's grant cycle, do you need anything concrete from us, like a vote, or do you feel like you have?
Yeah, that's what
I
I.
don't know necessarily a vote, but it would be incredibly beneficial to have recommendations about what we want to know
Okay,
about those grants. Like, do we just want a final? Do you want to see, progress along the way? I don't know, like what needs to be in the final? That would be really helpful.
well, it seems to me.
Just because I don't know. I can, for sure, I can wing it and
Yeah.
put it in there, but are there
So
things
that's a
specifically?
study
you
of
want?
past grants.
No, this,
I'm
I mean, we're
sorry,
talking about
this-
just this
these
year's
are the
cycle, the
ones-
ones that are about,
that-
money's about to go out.
Let's just run down and talk about them a little bit.
The
wanna-
the ones in each
Okay,
category.
but even besides just like specific, like things that would be
I'm talking
tailored
about
to
like
each
in
one,
general.
it'd be
You-
kind
what
of
would you
like.
it to contain.
Well, I think it needs to have a May 1st deadline for the initial report, because even if the projects, they're just getting the money now, right? Like in January, so that will be for all practical
Let's have
purposes.
the legal one, just because what if they haven't spent their money, and what if they're gonna run into a spot where they wanna ask for an extension?
Yeah, I agree.
Your
But
report
so-
is due by July 31st.
I mean, the county can
Yeah.
extend it because it's the county's money, but
Right.
let's not. I mean, like, we want people to, if they're gonna give them money or offer them money, we want them to use it by a specific time or so maybe we need an earlier check-in and then, but a like final.
But I'm saying May
Spend,
this
right?
coming year,
Right.
because we'll offer some reports, so that will have only been, they'll only have had
For 6
4 months.
Yeah,
With the money,
yeah.
for that, so it really is a preliminary.
Yeah,
check.
it
There could be a like, cause what does this check-in consist of? I mean, there could be, is it going to plan? Like, how have your plans changed? And because it's one thing to like, give someone a grant, try to see what they do with it. Do they execute based on the plan, or have circumstances changed and they had to change or whatever? So how's it going? Have your plans changed? We can't measure the efficacy, is that a word? Effectiveness of the grant until a year after they've spent the money, really, to say this.
Oh,
had
we
economic-
will
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
because that's a part of a reporting requirement.
Right, of course, but I mean, so really, the only question we're asking is, or if we ask it early, it's like, how's it going? Not, did you win? Like, did you
Yeah.
get everything done?
Well, except though, Ashley, we have to answer those questions each year. Like,
Oh.
so by just GOEO policy, the department will need to submit something that answers those questions
Well, then.
So we should
then
ask
the
them
heads up,
the
okay.
first time.
Well, that's the other.
And they
thing.
can
The
say,
worst thing
We're,
ever
we don't
is-
have an impact yet because we've only done stage 1 of our project, but that will be part of the reporting.
Right, I get it, but the worst thing ever, as someone who's received grants and had to write reports for the chamber at the last minute, was, not knowing what the questions are gonna be. It's like, what are we gonna be measured against here?
Yeah. let's
And
put
then
it
it's
in
like a
all the
real mystery, and
contracts.
you open that final report thing, and you're like, what are they gonna
Yeah,
ask?
can we put a copy of the
But
final
yeah.
report in the contract?
Let's what
Some
we
of
can
that,
do
those
is,
questions were on the application itself, though.
Mhm.
So we could ask them
Yeah,
for the
some-
measurement of what
some of them were.
what those questions were.
But yeah, but so if we do this early and we're not asking them to give, like, heads up, we're gonna need to know this stuff by May 1st. But tell us how it's going on whatever, April 1st, and just check in, and then if there is a red flag, they could raise it then. But that way we're. like,
Yeah, or well,
not
May
asking
first
for
gives
the-
us time, because the actual reporting deadline is July 31st, so I'm just trying to build in already some of that.
And if it's reimbursement based, then they're gonna be wanting to get their stuff done. But then there's gotta be a point of like, well, you didn't do it, we're not giving you the money and we're gonna keep
Reapply.
the money for the economic,
We're gonna
whatever.
have to go back to that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there'll be
Try
a
not
point
to,
of like,
yeah.
if you don't spend the money by X amount of time, then, the contract's null and void too.
But, and then the contracts will run through the calendar year, basically, is that the goal? Is to set them to expire at the end of 2026? Does that sound right?
The plan was to have them go until, I think it was June 31st. Which was, the reporting is due in July. I'll have to look at the date again,
Okay.
but it gave 2 weeks before we had to do final reporting.
And also for your final reporting, technically you just have to be like, we gave $10,000 to this company for this. We gave $2,000 to this business for this.
Well, but there's some, I mean, there's a question in there about impact.
Well, yeah, and you say this boosted our economy by hopefully,
Yeah.
and it's not that it did provide. It's kind of what their application said, by creating two
Sure, it
new
can be
jobs
narrative
or,
or
right?
whatever, yeah.
Because technically we care about how you spend your money, not how they're spending.
And
Yeah.
we did
The
that
money.
final.
But we care. about
So
that
on.
spending.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to be so tight onto the GOEO
Sure.
reporting, because yours is technically, we're asking how you spent your money. Not necessarily the details of how they're spending their grant.
And I
Yeah.
did
Does that
have
make
one
sense?
cycle that I had to
Yeah.
do that, because I did
Yeah.
it with Mod Community Childcare.
Right.
And basically it was, we distributed the funds,
And I can.
they
give you
haven't
the
started
reporting.
building yet, but
Right.
they were able to implement this one training piece. And that was basically what the report was, hey, we gave the money, they are not yet ready for this part
Yeah.
part is going really well. And here's how this one teacher has been impacted by the program. So we did do that, so.
But if it's like a 1-year contract, I mean, doesn't one deadline that sets us up for our annual reporting cycle and then a
never-
second
yeah.
one at the end of the contract? I mean, we wouldn't want more than that, would we?
I think we should always line it up with the contract. I would never go outside it again. It's a mess.
Agreed.
And you only get, in some cases, you only get 5 months to finish your project, and guess what? Them's the breaks. That's how EAG works. It's how whatever works. And I totally get it. It's a really short cycle, and I would never go outside that cycle again.
Wait, so you're saying that the contracts that you're issuing right now, so for like the golf course, you're saying their deadline
June,
is going to be June of this year?
yeah, like June 30 something. It can't be a year because we're reporting on it and we're applying again. And that's exactly how EAG works. So EAG, you get your distribution, I think like in October or something. And you have to have completed your project and completed your budget by June. Like that's it.
Even those kind of businesses have to be like ready to spend the money before we even give it to, like. once we
Moab
approve them-
Brewery is the perfect example of how
I'm
that
concerned
works
about that,
gloriously.
but-
They did it. The second that the contract is ready, they'll get their payment for it. They'll do their final report and we will never hear from them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost like we have to have.
We did it with
people-
Mackle one time and
Wait,
that was
not
a
have
huge
to.
mistake.
No, I
This
have
is-
to.
No, but
No.
like really not have to. This is a proposal and it might be the best one, but we don't have to do that.
I would do it
I mean-
exactly like EAG.
Well, what if the project needs more time to be completed? We just
I
want to choose
don't
those
have
projects.
time, no one has time to manage 15 different projects with different completion dates and different variables, and then a new cycle opens, and then you've got
It'd
another,
be standardized, just because it
then
would,
you standardize it
that's what we're talking about right
Yeah,
now, Lisa.
as a board, but you would have to manage it. And I don't see, with Mackle, we gave them 6 months outside of a standard reporting period that we had with the state.
Yeah, no, I get,
And it messed up
but
everything.
yeah, but that's our COG, which functions in the sense very differently.
Little different. I mean, because the
Not
RCG
RCG.
can,
I mean,
the
whatever.
county can extend it, because the county gets the money and the county's the one giving the money back to the people.
Yeah.
So you can come back to the commission and say we want to extend it, but how much do we really, that's what Melissa's saying. Not a good recommendation, not a good idea to do that, to plan on that kind of thing. We need to be encouraging people to finish up or be ready to start their, whatever they have. Before, and you know, and if we're letting them know it's a reimbursement thing, then it's like, get to work on it. We're guaranteeing these funds to you. So get to work on it, because as soon as we get our contracts, we can give you back the money. And I don't think that all of us knew that. And I definitely don't think the people that we were giving funds to knew that. I mean, based upon the phone calls that I'm getting, going to make me my money, I already spent it, or I need it, or whatever, you know, to get my stuff done. And so I think that it's important yes, the county could say, we're gonna give extensions on this money, because as long as we,
It's
Once
not even,
you
it's not
spend-
even extensions, it's just how we write the contract, because there is no.
Right, but Chris, as a
State authorized
practical
deadline,
matter,
right?
we have one county attorney. And you've got individual projects that have different terms and different amounts and different completions, and we have a hard enough time getting that through. If you now have to work with each individual person, so what I did as a standard is I said, 60 days prior to the expiration of your contract, you're gonna need an extension. This is the process to go through to have an extension.
Yeah.
But if you start out with a sub-grant program and all of those different projects have a different completion date,
It's not what I'm suggesting, though. I'm just asking the question of, do we really need to have the contracts all expire 5 months after people get their funding?
that's how EAG works, that's how DNR works.
Might be
I'm just
beneficial,
asking.
Chris, because I think the impact would be good, because then things are moving
Yeah.
versus. I'm getting to that, or I might, or you know what I mean, and then you're pushing it further and further out, and so I think it might be better from an impact standpoint to continue that tight deadline, and I see what you're saying on the tightness, but I do think it's maybe beneficial.
And we're writing the contracts that the money needs to be spent, or that the project needs to be completed within the contract terms?
Spent. Is there,
I just think we're limiting ourselves.
what else?
As a
do you
board?
See, like how do?
Like you could write the contract for a year.
You
Right?
could, yeah, so once these checks go out, well, see, that's the problem though.
Okay.
Because if they're reimbursement checks, technically Grant County hasn't spent it until that reimbursement goes out,
Correct.
And is that how?
right? The money's not going out with the contract. I don't know, is that how you guys are doing reimbursement checks?
Yeah.
So technically, I mean, I didn't realize that till right now, talking it through. But technically, right, Grant County wouldn't have spent the money till those checks are going out. So GoYo,
So if we're
You have
doing
those-
reimbursement, then it needs to
yes,
be on that.
exactly, yeah. See,
That-
we just
that's
figured that out
exactly
together,
right.
yeah. Good job. We
Yeah.
just worked that through, yeah. But no, that's true, because then I'm gonna say, we're gonna work on your reporting as soon as all the money's spent.
Yeah.
And not a minute sooner, right?
y'all.
And
So
as far as
technically,
extensions.
They do
go,
have to go out,
Extensions, I believe. And
or Grant County's paying out their own.
That's what I'm worried about, the short timeline, is just that we're gonna on the application side, we're gonna be limited as to what projects we can choose. Because they have to be projects that are like basically already happening. So it's gonna be harder for us to make things happen that wouldn't have already happened. And then we're gonna be more likely that if you have a really tight timeline like that, you're more likely to have non-completion, which is not something that we really want to have happen either. So it's fine, like if the county really feels like that's how we need to manage it, and reimbursement is definitely the way, because that's the only way we feel safe that the money's being well spent, then we have to do that, but I do think that will limit in a pretty real way, like what we're able to fund as a board, just because of those contract terms.
And maybe that's some support that you offer, you know, hey, how can we help you get this project across the finish line? Hey, do you need additional funding? As a board, let's go out and find more grants, or let's find more money, you know, maybe you offer technical
But
assistance
within
like
like
that.
3 months.
But I mean,
You know,
maybe
right?
that's a letter that you guys draft at this meeting right now and you send out with them, hey, just a heads up. Keep in mind that, you know, you have a tight deadline and how can we support you, or, you know, I don't know. Just, cause that is, you're right, that is tough. But you know what? It's free money. It is free money, and I think that if you want that as a business, you're gonna figure it out. As a business owner, are you not? It's free money.
Sometimes.
Right, so-
Or you just say it's, I can't
Or
do
you
it, and
can't
I'm not gonna be able to keep.
Or
the
you
grant,
can't do it.
Like, I think
Which
that's,
It's
I
a
don't know.
possibility.
like the golf course, like they're gonna have to issue an RFP. They probably haven't done that yet because they're waiting on the finalized to get a check, right? So they want to, or the contract to be written. How long does it take to go through the process? They can probably do it, like that's
Right.
realistic, but that's one type of project. And even just that, just
They're
getting an
gonna
RFP
need,
written,
they're probably gonna
somebody
need some help.
hired.
Right.
I mean,
It's
they're
still
going
gonna
to
take
need some help
months.
because they're not really never mind.
That's the reason I've already reached out to have a conversation about their matching funds, just
Yeah.
in case they're not thinking of it. I think
It's kind of funny.
you are.
I have sort of a contrarian view,
Okay,
and that is that I think if it's explicitly effectively a 5-month project, then that by nature preempts people whose proposals are not quite yet ready
mhm.
to certainly to take to a bank. And I think that there's some value in using that 5-month period of time as a criterion that's explicit so that the applicants know that that is their time frame. That is,
Yeah.
that the work has to be done by then.
But like a project like the press that we supported last year, that's like Rebecca's thing. I mean, I think they probably are able to
Yeah,
do
she's
it.
spending money like crazy. I bet she can, as soon as she gets the contract, be like, here's.
Because she went ahead and she got an SBA loan and like all that stuff lined up ahead of time, just happened to be in the interim while we were waiting for these funds to come through. But anyone who's like gone through a process of trying to get like a restaurant or just like a Main Street kind of bricks and mortar business going knows like delays are common, like, I don't know, like, it doesn't always, 5-month window is real small.
I think like.
You gotta get Aaron to get on his schedule so he can come in and do the plumbing if you wanna put that new sink in that we're
Well,
having to pay for.
It's kind of funny that we didn't, like, that wasn't any of the conversations when we were doing those interviews, and knowing that, I'm like, oh, that should be like, if we're doing a guideline booklet
Yeah.
thing on things, that needs to be like item 3. Yeah,
Yeah,
cause I'm just like, oh, yeah, you're.
Yeah.
yeah, these
You
are.
know, I'm surprised you're surprised at it. I'm like, whoa, Chris didn't know this. I'm like, oh.
Well, the contracts have been written in different ways over the
Okay,
years,
yeah,
so
yeah.
this is different.
But I mean, I
which
agree
might-
with Forrest. It's like,
Again,
gets
like, it might be
people,
totally appropriate.
gets
It's
people
different.
organized, and we
Yeah.
want effective things, but yeah. I
But
just-
if we look at it from a sub-grant program, I mean, even if we're not doing sub-grant outside, we can still kind of sub-grant inside the county. From those, and then they have to hit those timelines. Do you see what would they have to?
Now, we would,
guess the county
honestly,
would-
like, if it's the county and the county receives the funding.
Well, that would be RCOG, right?
No, she's talking
No,
about
the
RCG,
RCG.
like what we're doing with that 150 this year, that would go to like programming
Totally.
within an off, not
Yeah,
not
those
salary, but like
projects.
the project.
No, because she's gonna pay for the EDC subscription, she's gonna write a check, right? She's gonna pay Zion's Bank, her salary is gonna be accounted for,
Okay, yeah,
right?
so it is, it's gonna
Like-
have to be spent in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, we don't ask for paychecks, we're not asking for check stubs, but it's gonna
No,
be like,
But that
the
was
commission has,
spent in the
it's
same-
allocated,
Yeah,
right? It's, what's the term? It's, yes, thank you, encumbered. Thank you. It's late in the day.
Understood.
Anyways. Well, I'm here to help too. Or if you want me not to.
And there were many of those people that did sub grants that did go ahead and do businesses, and they made stuff happen, like the little juice bar. I mean, we didn't end up picking them, but I mean, there were quite a few of them that were shovel, open ready and just we're using it as a supplement to their opening costs, and I don't necessarily know if that's what you guys wanna
Is there,
recommend and do a sub grant anyways, but I think it's possible, there's a lot of people to be ready, and it'll make them be more ready. And if money comes back off of these that the county isn't able to spend, then by July 30th, we're gonna spend it on Melissa's things, and then we're gonna have that extra money that we're gonna move over to
Yeah,
possibly
for it, yeah.
either helping her more or saying, you know what, we have $30,000, we could sub grant this year.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to use it on economic development. I mean, so we're not just, you said it really good, actually. It is ever evolving, it's gonna always change, but I think that a basis for sub grants is something that we can work on, even if we're not giving sub grants, because we could end up giving a sub grant this year, you know? So what if there's $30,000 that comes back out of this cycle that the county spends on economic development, and then we use that for sub grant toward the end of the year?
Or there's a big flood and there's some businesses that are affected, and you're like, we have this $30,000, let's grant it to businesses that were affected by the flood.
So they can easily
Yeah.
reimburse. So I think there's always gonna be work to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't, like. We have a few minutes left if we have to. Do you have enough guidance to write those contracts? I mean, it sounds to me like you already had a plan, like, and that's great.
Yeah, but I mean, there are specific things that you want to know. Oh, Jasmine's gonna go.
She's by.
Bye.
Thank you for serving.
Yeah.
It's the last meeting. We should have brought donuts, but then she wasn't vegan.
Right.
Have them through the Zoom.
Oh, no, she's going to be right back. She needs to run outside for an animal that is out.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's what happens when you let the person who needs corrective surgery again. Read messages.
Or for his years of service too. You come to open public meetings, so you can always come back and do this. For fun.
For fun. Yeah,
EDs for fun.
it's been a couple of years. It's been quite a few years.
There's gonna be possibly an open position on the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District Board. They want to expand their board to 9, so that might be a conversation.
Which one?
The Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District
Oh.
Board, they'd be the ones that are helping to expand the care center and the assisted living facility and stuff, so. Anyways, it's for everyone on this board, just because they, you know, it's really interesting how they all interconnect, so. That won't be yet, they have to expand their board, they have to recall the commission, but I think they want to expand their board and so on. Side note.
I actually think that would be cool for you.
Are you gonna be on
Are
the?
there- I want to know how many seniors that we're gonna have by 2035 and by 2055.
well, there's
say
6,000
we have a plan
seniors
for that.
retiring today for like 5 more years.
How much does the check?
FYI.
You need to know that.
You know what I mean?
If the
What?
reimbursement.
Yeah, let me-
Okay, that's helpful.
Let me just check.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, what is the plan? I'll
I'll
know
say, oh,
how many.
you
are
were
taken
going
care
kind
of.
of.
Yeah. We had a grant, I mean, we had a grant extension last
We need
year
to put that in.
and GOEO will not be allowing any more RCG
Are there any
extensions, so Grant County
that we
was
gave that
No more extensions,
was
yeah.
in there.
We gotta get the title on
and
it.
out of business.
But yeah, I'll ask.
We'll find out when we send the contracts out. for
Like, I know
signature.
the last page applied, but then they're done. They're no longer.
I don't,
But so we didn't give money.
I don't know,
I didn't know if
did.
we had any others that like may have gone out of business. and then-
Not on the ones that we offered, no, not any ones, I mean, we could, that's the same, we could run
nothing
down.
I'm aware of, but I'll find out when I send those contracts out.
Yeah.
So Melissa, and everyone, so if we are, like, so it sounds like we're gonna be on a tight timeline for the RCGs this year. We're gonna give people 6 months-ish to finish their project.
And
I
there
think-
is an extension clause
Yeah,
in there.
and there's an extension, that,
Meaning,
yeah,
like, hey, if you need some extra time and these things have happened.
Yeah.
We've done like 4 extensions this year.
yeah. But just in that context, I think it would be important for us as a board to do a very light check-in halfway through the term and just ask them, are you on track? Because we don't want to be having those conversations on June 15th, you know what I mean? Like that would be, I don't like, it's not a long time. They're gonna get the terms of the contract, they're gonna need to get to work right on it, but
So you're saying we need to talk to them in March?
yeah.
Right, like if.
Exactly.
Writing.
Yeah, like a light check-in in March and then.
Are you on track, or do we need to be, you know, do you need support from us? Whatever.
2 months after they've gotten
know.
the check.
It-
Or
it
received the
clarifies,
contract.
Like if we.
Might have
Correct.
just done something, I
Right.
mean, I don't know, maybe, I'm looking from a business lens, I think that's insane that you just got a check for whatever.
I know.
And you haven't done
And
anything.
we wanna see that you actually.
Right, like that
Yeah.
doesn't.
So
Well,
I
it should,
think-
hopefully they've done something, but yeah, they may not have gotten to the point where they're actually spending the money yet, you know? I mean, if they need to do an RFP, like, or something like that, right? That's gonna take some time. So anyway, but we just check in with them to make sure,
Hey, you gotta-
whatever their timeline is, you need to be on track to be finishing by the end of June. Or we need to help you out, or we need to find a way to reallocate those funds, like, those are the options, really. So can we put something like that in?
Let me, yeah, I'll
Okay.
my ask would be, like, when you say, what can the board do? Having those communications with the sub-grantees is really helpful. Because right now, like, I'm writing the process and I'm writing the agreements and I'm, so help with the communication would be really helpful.
Okay.
Which I mean,
Okay.
or we could divide and conquer that, like we at a meeting, like, okay, you're talking to these people, you're talking about, you know what I mean? And then
Or
the
you-
next meeting, we come back with, this is what they said, this
Why
is
don't
where
we-
we email or whatever.
Why don't we put it on them?
See what the answer is.
There, just a deadline in the contract for a midway check-in. And all that it requires is you writing us an email saying how you're proceeding with the project and whether you feel like you're on track to complete within the term. And then we at our March meeting would look at those, and then if there's follow-up that's needed, we can ask the board to help with that. Does that sound reasonable?
Is
That would be
there on the extension clause, do they automatically get it, or can we say, no, never mind?
It's 60 days. And they have to notify 60 days before the contract expires that they need an extension. And then there are a couple of questions that they need to answer about why they're requesting an extension. And that will go back to this board whether or not.
And then we get to decide on if it's a yay or nay, okay.
There's so much that goes into the sub-grant program. Gives me PTSD from when I ran it.
I learned.
It's a little.
So I, just so that you're aware, I'm gonna talk to James and really get clarification on if. A sub-grant project doesn't spend before that July 1st, are we encumbering the funds? Do we need to amend your contract with the state, what that looks like? So, because I don't really know, actually. So, because most of my counties just give the money up front. So. We'll learn together and I'll report back. When's the next meeting?
It's good. We're back on our regular schedule, which is the last Wednesday of each month,
Okay.
starting. in
The end of January.
So the very end of January.
And by then, probably all the contracts will have gone out.
And we'll
But
know.
then we could also decide if say we wanted most of them to be reimbursable, but for example, the golf course one, we didn't want it to be reimbursable and the county wanted to give them the money because we know they're gonna spend it, so it could be.
And there are two ways, so it's not just reimbursable, again, it follows DNR. So you can do up to 25% at a time. And then that gets reimbursed, and then you can apply for another 25%. So there are mechanisms. If an organization can't cash flow, we wanted to make sure that we put something in there so that we can take care of that if they can't cash flow it. So there's a way for them to pre-apply for the 25%. And they can do that as well. So there were a lot of things that, yeah. So I mean, the whole idea is trying to find the perfect balance between accountability and workability. Like, we don't want to hamstring or completely prohibit someone, and also we're in a position right now where we've got about $800,000 of outstanding grants with no projects and no reports and no money, so
Are we clawing back?
no.
Those are mostly the STAR grants, which were before this economic development program was in effect, so.
I feel like that's why as harsh or as stringent as a reimbursement sounds, or a 25% pull sounds, it is way less harsh than clawing back, which is why I think no one ever has an appetite to claw back.
We just don't. It's the
Like,
reality.
it's not,
Yeah.
I don't have an appetite for it.
But then
I
things
would
get
say.
brought up, and
No,
then
I-
we sit
yeah,
down, the
I
person that
understand.
we bring up all the time, I would hate that, like, we sit down, the people that we gave the STAR grants to that never used it, and you're just like, and it's 5 years later, we're still talking about it, so I don't want that to happen with any of us.
They used it, right? That money went out.
Oh, you went out.
The county, the county, the county. used it.
County's a state, yeah.
We used it just fine. But I think that that's what it is it's an effort to be supportive and understand that cash flowing may be an issue. And also, you know, making sure the projects get completed are an issue, and we may find that it doesn't work, I don't know.
Yeah. And we might not do sub-grants again. So.
We might not.
Okay, well, let's finish up, call the meeting adjourned. Thank you, but as we're doing that, yeah, seriously, Forrest, this is your final meeting, and Jasmine, if you're back. This is also.
I
your
am
final
back,
meeting.
sorry.
Just to say thank you both so much for your service to this board. You're the two, I think, longest serving members on the board, and both have offered so much to the county through your service to this board. Personally, and I know we as a group and the county itself really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody, and I'm looking forward to seeing the great work that you're gonna do going forward.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thanks, Jasmine.